So
A little bit small.
Oh, sorry.
there we go.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yep.
better. Yeah.
All right, one more slide over.
Okay.
Okay, advanced one. There we go. Okay, so look, I'm a parent. I have parents. You know, when you raise children, sometimes you tell them they're special. Sometimes you tell them they're not special. I'm here to tell you that Salesforce is special. We work with a lot of. I've been in the testing space for quite some time. We've helped test applications, large ERPs like SAP, different web-based applications. I'm here to tell you Salesforce is special. It's different, it's unique, and it requires a special set of tools that is not really thought about sometimes in the space, right? So just want to let everybody know, Salesforce and this world is special. It's quite different than a lot of the dynamic applications that are usually tested, right? We know about the free annual releases. We know sometimes they can cause us a lot of headaches, especially when you're testing. We want to make sure that flows work and everything's working as they were meant to. And sometimes those annual releases cause some headaches. When we talk about headaches, we think of things like shifts in the UI. If a button, new opportunity was on the left side of the screen and it moves to the right side of the screen, that can break things, and it can break testing, right? So there we go.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how do we see them, see their face and also the slides. Yeah. Okay.
And then finally, again, because we're special, some generic tools who automate testing and who are meant to code for testing, they break, they're fragile, they're brittle. And it's just the nature of the game. When you're working in large ERPs that don't have the amount of complexity in the annual releases, it's a lot easier. So because of what's unique about Salesforce is why traditional automation tools struggle. Next slide, please. Okay, so Provar, who are we? Look, we've been doing this for about 11 years now. Our company and our co-founder, who's still a large part of our organization, was a Salesforce test engineer at Barclays in the UK. Really cool. What that means is that this product was founded and built on the back of a need that an engineer had, right? So he came into challenges, was using tools on the marketplace and doing some coding with open source, and found a need and found a niche and built Provar. So it's really interesting in the testing space. You'll find a couple of different things. One, you'll find tools or companies who do other things like release management, CI/CD pipeline, who have acquired a testing tool so that their portfolio of products don't have any gaps, right? So their specialty is not test automation, but they want to make sure that they have it to offer. And the other type of company that you'll run into are, I would call them like robotic frameworks or UI-based applications that are meant to test any application, right? What's unique about Provar is that we were built in Salesforce for Salesforce and for test automation. Like this is all we do. This is what we specialize in. This is, we wake up, we eat, breathe, and sleep. Test automation for Salesforce. It doesn't mean that we can't test other applications, because we can. This is just our specialty. And again, what we're going to talk about a lot here today is the reason and the things that differentiate Provar from some of our competitors. Our metadata awareness is what makes us very successful in the Salesforce space, and we'll talk about that. Let's go forward a little bit, Sukh.
So I'll take the next two. So what I want to talk about is more of the testing paradox. And we were talking about, Simon was talking about how speed is becoming the new thing with AI, right? So you hear about vibe coding, agentic, the power of using agents. And really what that's giving you is speed. But this paradox is, what is the power of powerless automation? So it can look very powerful when you can prompt something within an AI engine and it builds something really fast. And in fact, I think my mother was amazed when I showed her ChatGPT for the first time. I was amazed for the first time. But what will happen is it looks super powerful. It looks very slick and it can do some amazing things. But on the back end, what happens is that you require constant maintenance to stay relevant, which is only going to consume more team resources and delaying releases. I actually read a Salesforce Ben article earlier this week, and Salesforce Ben was saying 2026 is going to be the year of technical debt. The reason for that is because of vibe coding and having agents do things that you didn't assume were the right things to do. So going back to what Simon was saying, with the UI changing, triggers a cascade of script updates, and every Salesforce release means the hours to repair that work. We call it the rework spiral, where you build a test and then it breaks and you have to fix it. And then you build a new test and it breaks and you have to fix it. And guess what? Now the new releases that you want to build, you never get to them because all you're doing is maintaining. So this is only going to speed up. This problem is only going to speed up with some of the AI that we're seeing out there. So how are we doing things different? We're flipping that model. We flip the model. We basically, Provar has automation that stays powerful because it adapts with Salesforce. It's built to flex with Salesforce and not fight against it, delivering resilience where others deliver fragility. So how do we do that?
Mike, can I put you on this? Do you mind if I put you on the spot here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you help me understand, like, not fighting against Salesforce? Like, what do you think of when that, with that statement? Like, it's like you're moving upstream, but what does that look like for you?
Well, I think a couple things there. The first thing is just understanding the root problem, right? And you talked about Salesforce with UI changes. Some of the best parts about Salesforce are the hardest parts to test. So when you think about the best part of Salesforce is that a lot of the coding is already done by Salesforce, shipped by Salesforce, and you give the freedom of an admin or someone with less technical skills to change some of the flows, the triggers, the UI component layout, where everything is. You give a lot of that power to someone less technical. Well, that's very difficult from a testing perspective, because testing is built by building a digital clone of the solution at test. And then that's how we go about testing. And if everything's changing at the UI level, that really presents a challenge. And the other aspect that's the root cause of this challenge is that Salesforce has the Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. That's kind of the core products. But then over the years, they've used more of an investment model, where now let's buy applications like Velocity and Industries. And that's new technology, and it's all Marketing Cloud as an example. New technologies that are all incorporated under the same umbrella, but are using different architecture in the back end. Like some have metadata, some don't have metadata. Some are using Omni Studio, which is a whole new framework, right? So that's another challenge that just creates this issue. Did I answer your question, or I just answered the problem?
No. That was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. I think now, next slide, I can get to the solution.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how do we solve that, right? The fact that this is always changing. You've got UI elements that are always there. You've got IDs that every time you refresh the page, they change. You've got shadow DOM elements, shadow root elements with CPQ, things of that nature. So what do? So we basically have a blueprint of your Salesforce org, and we do that by caching the metadata. That helps us with recognition of the components and the elements, so that should something change within that, we're not recognize it by scanning the screen. we're actually recognizing it through the metadata, through the blueprint. So that helps with element recognition, but it also helps us with things below the surface like permission sets. Is something read access or edit access? And if I push a change, did it change someone else's access? Could be a huge compliance risk if someone has access to data that they shouldn't, right? Did this flow just create a huge problem downstream that I didn't even test for? All of that is held beneath the UI, and we're able to test that as well. So that second column, permission aware, we're not using the UI to see if something's permission aware, we're using the metadata. And then lastly, I talked about the profile sensitivity. So understanding how different user experience the same application based on those different profiles. So with all of this, it really gives us that edge that we can move at speed, but also not sacrifice that maintenance and put you into that rework spiral.
Thank you. Next slide, Sukh. So, Michael, you gave away the quote from SF Ben. Again, we promised to be sort of quick on slides so we could get to the fun piece of the demo. Again, I had a conversation with just one. It's really, really important now. We see testing kind of like life insurance. You don't always know why you have it until you need it. When phone rings and we pick it up, the first question I ask is, when you want to buy, what happens? Like, why all of a sudden is testing important to you? And it's usually tied to some sort of either protecting against the catastrophic, maybe a little exaggeration, something catastrophic, or the risk of something catastrophic happening. And the faster technology is moving and the faster we're developing, again, the more that risk just grows and grows. I hope the answer that comes back when I ask the question is, no, we're just, we know we're scaling and we're getting to a point where manual is not working, or, reworking on our Selenium scripts, it's just getting too arduous and we can't keep up with that. But very often is the case that something happened and someone came screaming and said, why aren't you testing, right? When it's tied to revenue, when it's tied to data, there are very big risks out there. I start to think about this in the way that the cybersecurity industry almost thinks about what they're protecting against, right? It's important, and testing is important, and again, it's becoming really, really challenging. And so I'll reiterate, like, Salesforce is a special environment to test. Sukh or Michael, anything to add, and then we can jump into demo. I think you might have missed a slide or two, though, Sukh. Did that go too fast? The other? What's next? Oh, there you go. We're out of order a little bit, eh? That's okay. So I think this is just sort of a pile-on of what Michael was alluding to. I told you we'd be redundant, and here we are. Traditional tools, they're just not built to understand the metadata and the intricacies of Salesforce. They try, and again, it gets a lot into rework spiral. We go through a lot of evaluations of tools that we compete with, and if you're doing a very simple, very straightforward test script, it'll look fine. It'll pass. It's no problem. So our competitors are great at what they do. But when you get into the complexity of Salesforce and when you get into the annual releases, it's really challenging. So again, because we're built with metadata awareness, it really accelerates what you can do with testing. And we are always thinking about quality and always making sure that our customers we understand their quality goals. So really important for us. So I'll let you jump in now. Oh, we've got another one. Okay, I was ready to hand it to you for demo.
Did Simon say this is his first time doing this?
I did say that, that's right. That was my disclaimer out of the gate. Okay, look, I mean, why do we test, right? Like, what are we protecting against? We want to catch issues early, right? We want to identify defects. Have we ever deployed code without bugs on round one? Probably not. They happen. You can't stop them. So we try and what we call in the testing industry shift left, test early, test often, and test the right things, right? We want to make sure that as developers and as the QA practitioners, that you're deploying with quality and with confidence. Michael will tell you we hear a lot of our prospects and customers talk about confidence in the releases, right? And it's not going away. It's becoming more and more difficult. So again, we want to enable you to make faster decisions with reliable test results. So we do see ourselves as a quality safety net, quite literally.
Yeah, I have a few things to add about testing. Like my personal experience, just like this week only, I already had like 2 hot fix in our production. The reason is like during the QA testing, like earlier production deployment, there are just some like minor things, right? Like people missed, and it's very tiny things like on page layout, data filter, like things like because when we building system more and more complex, nobody have a full picture to have like there are like almost like 10, 20, 30 different filter validation rules on even single record page. Just no one have the capacity to remember every single time to look at them, though, right? It's very manual intensive to QA to do the regressional test, which like I know everybody hate to do that, and that is why like I'm eager to know is there any tool yeah can be like a relief sometimes. Also like this is like every time there are some bugs, like when user report, you are losing the trust from your end users. It's a bad user experience, right? Doesn't matter how fast you can fix. It's just from the user perspective, why your system always have bugs? It's not good. It's not looking good from the to the development team. Yeah.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
Michael, he's hired.
Yeah, no, great job, you. I think, when you talk about manual testing, it becomes what should I test that's most important.
Mhm.
You start to make decisions on fringe use cases that you hadn't thought about. And like you say, humans make errors, right? So when you have, like you said, 20 different things you need to test against, it's very hard to hit every single 20 thing every single time.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a very good point.
Michael, is there? I'm asking you. I'm setting you up here. Is there room for manual testing? I mean, we're not suggesting that. Like, how do you feel about that?
Oh, I mean, yes, I don't have a single customer that does no manual testing.
Right.
You always should manual test, but it's the strategic aspect of what you're manual testing, right? And then the aspect of increasing your test coverage with automation so that you can free up time for others to go do. You mentioned 2 hot fixes. So what happens not just from the end user with the trust, like, hey, now I'm going to start using Excel because I don't trust this system actually doing what I need. That's
Exactly.
the last thing we want.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other side of it is, what else is the development team doing or could be doing, because they have to go find out what happened with that hot fix.
Yeah.
And so now you're not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing on your roadmap, and you're failing from the CIO perspective. At that perspective, you're not meeting the deadlines in the roadmap that your CIO put forth.
Yeah. Not even they don't like to use it. They are basically sometimes the bugs completely stop their workflow, right?
Yeah.
So they just cannot move on. That's the worst part. Yeah.
That as a salesperson, Simon and I, the worst thing is if we can't produce a quote, right? My goodness. But yeah, I definitely feel the pain, you.
Thank you.
So we can get you in here now.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to share my screen, entire screen.
While he's getting ready, are you covering positive and negative versions of testing?
Yes. So we have a dashboard that will show you
Okay, so I would like you guys, I'm sorry I turned my video off just for bandwidth, but imagine you just bought a vision from Salesforce, some new cloud, some new technology, some new component, and you have an implementation partner or you're doing it yourself. As Salesforce leaders, you are implementing it yourself. Okay, so I'm guessing you have some sort of role. I'll take liberty with the titles. Paul here, he's a program manager. So he manages end-to-end delivery of the features and enhancements that were promised in the vision. He needs to alignment between leadership and the vision that they had and the actual end user needs. His focus is adoption. So he builds the trust and reliability. So once we say we're doing some feature, some capability, there's trust and reliability expectations from the end user. I'm sure you've all come across this, right? We're doing some new feature. We're doing CPQ. We're doing FSL. We're doing Slack, whatever it is, right? So I'm just throwing out clouds or solutions out there. Okay, so Paul is, as a program manager, is responsible for that. Then we have a role of test the tester. So she builds tests that she ensures will work in high stability and performance standards. She designs rigorous test cases so she can report up to Paul and management to make sure that she can guarantee that the updates that she makes, the implementation, or the team is actually building, has a flawless end user journey. And then lastly is Maggie Manager. So this is the leader. She needs to take all the investment we've done, all the work, all the testing, and report up. Maybe it's a CIO, maybe it's CTO, maybe it's CEO, right? Eventually, we roll up to someone who guarantees that whatever we did, whatever decision we make, aligned with our strategic plan, is actually in line. Does that make sense? I want to pause there. That's the persona I'd like to highlight today.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm Paul, the program manager. So I have my programs, I bought some new cloud, I have some solution, and I need to know, is it working? I log into Salesforce, as many of us do every single day. First thing we do in the morning. So I log in and I test. What are my executions? I need complete visibility. I need one cockpit or one place to see what executions, what tests did we plan for, and how did they pass? How did they fail? So one place for us to look at the quality of our testing. I can have granular detail into who actually ran the test, who's responsible, who's the owner. I can segment this because we are on Salesforce between functional, regression, however we want. So these are dashboards that, again, because we are on Salesforce, you have access from any different platform, mobile, native, etc. And we can get more and more granular. We can look at all the details. What are the defects? What is new? What's open? What's assigned? What's open? And what is the impact of those defects? I'm going to scroll down a bit more. Where's the coverage? So we have a new product, a new, say, feature. How much did we test? Are we 80% confident, 50% confident? I need visibility so I can report as a program manager up to the next level. And of course, we can look through different aspects of this: UI testing, flow coverage, Apex code, metadata, every single aspect that is important to me as a program manager to have guarantee and confidence that we are testing things. And again, I can report up to my leadership that this makes sense and I'm confident. So I'm pause there. And again, Michael and Simon, please jump in, or you and people in the room. So Ottawa user group, if you have any questions, please jump in.
Can you scroll a bit? And there's a section where you're showing the bugs. So, like, whatsoever defect you got, like, are you creating somewhere in a project management, let's say Gus or Jira or somewhere? Or we
100%. I don't know your name, sir, but I'm going to jump into that. So how do we actually come up with this? How do we create the data? How do we get access to the data that we can actually visualize? Because all we want is one place to visualize. So I'm going to go to release management. So within release management, I can see the actual issues that we are reporting from users, and this comes from any type of DevOps solution. So be it Azure, be it from Jira tickets, wherever you create your user stories, we pull that information. We're integrators. So we have a definition of what is the issue, what are we supposed to do, what is the description, and however we want to segment that related to test cases within that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, our platform is robust enough that we can connect to literally any type of system that where you create the user stories. Okay, so once we have the user stories, once we have the actual issue, we want to create tests. So I'm going to give you verbally a bit of a preview, but let's say we're doing manual testing. Obviously, we can connect to the original issue, whether it be in Azure DevOps, whether it's Jira, and we can define what is our test case. We can give a description. We can even go as far as selecting the object that we're actually trying to test here. So for my future example, I'm going to say lead. Oh, sorry. So you scroll down to lead. I can filter. I'm not going to go into it, but I can select a specific type of object within Salesforce. What is the persona? Is it a sales rep? Is it a BDR? Is it a service person? I can granularly get to that level of detail and say, what is the output of this? Then I can say, generate test cases for me. When I click test, generate test case, so obviously this uses our AI models, our technology to actually create the test cases based on the definition that we pulled from our source of truth, where the stories come from. Okay, so give it a second. Bear with me, user group, but let's scroll down. Here's our test cases. So here's the full text, and I can say, okay, let's clarify which one, and I can say, let's select all, or I can specifically go through and choose, explicitly go through and say, which ones do I want added to my test case? And I say save. Does that make sense? At a high level.
So those test cases are automatically generated?
They're pulled from your source of truth, the stories, Jira, Azure, etc.
Okay.
We are validating that we say, okay, this is the actual test case we want to create, and we push it to our testers. And that's where I'm going to the next step, to say, how do we actually take these different test cases, and we actually build the test case.
So is there, like, for example, if user using a Jira user story, do they need to follow a specific template to make this work?
That is very configurable. So the idea is that when we actually set this up, when we actually build it, it's already connected to Jira. All I'm doing is I'm interacting with Salesforce records.
Okay.
Yep. And
right?
what happens is actually converting it to natural language based off the context from Jira.
Okay.
So you're grounding it with Jira.
Okay.
You don't have to follow a format, but that's how we're understanding the process that you want to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And the piece that Sukh showed below was actually grounding it with your metadata. So for AI to work the right way, you need two things. You need process, and you need it to know what the components, the metadata, the object structure, the apex triggers, all of this stuff. You need to be grounded with that context as well. So this is how we're setting up the manual test case creation from here.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
I'm not showing it today, but we can follow up. Also, AI-based test case generation, that is something that Provar is heavily invested in. And we have a GA product, but again, we have GA coming soon for that. If that's of interest to you, we can have a follow-up conversation.
Yep.
Excuse me, what does GA mean?
General availability. So right now, we're still developing. We have pilot customers who are using it in production. I believe, Michael, you can correct me, but it's coming very, very soon. Like I'm talking weeks, months.
Prototype?
It's like a beta version.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not generally pushed into public yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we work with key customers. When we have confidence with the customer, we've addressed their use case, we make it available to everyone. Same thing Salesforce does. Salesforce works with all of their customers to see, okay, here's customers we want to try something with, customers align, and then once we agree, we release it.
Yeah.
The beauty of this is the first part of the development life cycle is like, let's figure out what the test cases need to be from a manual perspective. And then after that, once we've decided on those, let's automate them. So this is step one. We've got to build the test cases manually and have documentation of them. But as Sukh mentioned, we've already got it live where now we can take that without anybody building a test case and have AI do it for us, grounded with the context of our Salesforce org.
So it can learn.
Well, we've fed basically all of the well, let me back up on that question. One of the things we talked about was moving so fast, but then creating technical debt. What we've seen on the market is that AI can learn, but it learns from Selenium and open frameworks that are out there that break. They're built based off of things that we already know are fragile. And so what we've done is that we've built based off of Jira for process, and then we've basically taught Salesforce metadata to our knowledge base. And therefore, it's going to be fed off of, and because we cache your metadata, we now have both the process and the metadata to build robust test cases from AI. So that's kind of the way it works.
So it means that, for example, we could feed it all of the previous user stories in the past, or it's not necessary?
Yes, absolutely. You could do this, and it actually builds it helps build context. But the way it's set up is that you're building a test case for each scenario.
Exactly.
So if you're looking to build a automation for a quote to cash, you would basically feed those specific use cases and user stories.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
The quote, which part of it? I'm sorry.
Oh, cast or something?
Quote to cash. Opportunity creation in Salesforce, CPQ. I'm just talking about a specific scenario that you usually see in Sales Cloud, where you build a quote all the way to back-end billing.
Oh, gosh, sorry, it's because I speak Spanish. So
No problem.
I think it's just an example of a use case, right? Quote to cash. It could be lead to conversion. It could be prospect to lead. It could be whatever process you want. You could define that. And you can leverage our models to be able to automate some of this to make it easier. So you get to that user story, you get to the actual test case, so you could actually start testing, right? And I think that's the next step, what I'd like to highlight. So I'm going to take the role of the tester. So again, she wants to build tests, and she wants integrity, making sure every test, every deployment meets the high standards that her organization has set for performance standards. She wants validation, and again, user experience, making sure the end user actually gets whatever was promised from the business whenever they decide to do some project, digital transformation, some improvement project, whatever it is. So this is tests. Okay, so now I'm jumping through how do we actually build these tests? This is Provar. And again, I'm going to go a bit off script just to answer questions, but this is the interface. Obviously, we have AI. If you've got questions, we have access to entire knowledge base, all of our portals, community help, just if you have technical questions about how to build this. Settings, we can connect to a numerous number of systems. So Salesforce, that's our bread and butter. We are experts in testing Salesforce. We can go to Google, Microsoft, Zephyr. These are just examples, right? And we're continually evolving this. Okay, we can get into the granular details if you are really looking at object models, looking at records. Of course we can do that. We can monitor executions, look at our test plans connected to what we just looked at, files, if you have external tools, external data. But what I want to focus on is actually building a test. So remember, I'm the tester, and what I'm going to do is create a new test. So within the structure here, I'm going to say, let's create a new test. So I'm going to call this Ottawa folder. And again, who am I connecting to? There's different orgs. I don't have to select just one org. I'm sure a lot of you people in the user group, you have multiple orgs or instances. I'm saying my demo org. And what is the Salesforce application? So we already know, because of our metadata approach, when you connect to a system, we have all the information, what apps are there, which Salesforce apps. So I'm going to go scroll down and select Sales Cloud. Sorry, Lightning Sales is what I actually want. Give me 1 second. Lightning, here we go, Sales. And we say launch test builder. Okay. So give it 1 second. Please bear with me. My apologies, user group and Simon, Michael. So what it's going to do is going to create that connection, that secure connection. And of course, we can connect by different ways, JWT, OAuth, username, password. And what it does here, it connects to our Salesforce org. Excuse me for that. As you can see on the right-hand side, it's doing all the authentication, making sure we're doing this in the right way, secure way. And it's going to load up that specific app. So we talk about Sales Lightning app. So my use case here, say the user story was creating a lead. I know that's very simple, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go leads. You see I'm interacting with my Salesforce, and I see this interface. So a user might come through and say, okay, new lead. Now what happens if this button moves? Salesforce, as they make changes, updates, this button could be down in the bottom left. It could be on the right. It does not matter to Provar. Because what we do is we look at the metadata. We look at the actual definition of how do you actually create this record. And as you just saw, I right-clicked, and we have this Chrome extension which says add to test case. So imagine we're looking at the metadata, and we're saying, okay, user comes in, or even system, and say, okay, new, and here we go. So new. There's different interactions we can have with the button. We can click it, we can say hover, we could say context menu, drag, drop, whatever it is. In this case, it's click. So now what I'm going to say is add and do. So I've just created the new button. Now what happens? The new interaction, sorry. When you click new, obviously you have a new lead record. This could be opportunity account. It really does not matter. It could be custom object. And I would go through and start testing. Okay, what is the different fields that we need to interact with? So in this example, I'm going to say Mr. I'm saying add to test case. I can go through and I can define every single field within this new lead record creation, right? I can explicitly specify a field, but this is probably not a good use of my time. What I want to do is have a tool that can go through and understand the metadata, understand what is the requirements. Are we talking about text field? Are we talking about a dollar amount? Are we talking about an address, etc.? So I'm going to use Provar's AI technology to actually understand the metadata and say, here's all the fields on this page. And of course, I can say, let's select every single field, or I can be explicit and select specific fields. I can say, let's add them all. So I know Simon doesn't like this, but I'm going to do it anyways. But I added all the fields. So again, because we know the definition of what is a lead object for my organization. And it goes through, understands the definition, and not only does it understand the definition, it will give me sample data that I can populate. Give me 1 second.
I'll help with the spinning wheel. So for anybody that knows testing, sample data is usually about 50% of the test job.
Yeah.
Getting the org in the right manner so that you can actually start testing. So what you're seeing here is that you don't have to worry about that anymore. It's data, but not only is it data, it's data that works with your metadata. So if you require 5 characters, it's going to provide 5 characters.
Is there any possibility user can use this function to seed in some data automatically every time a sandbox refresh?
100% you. So you said seeding data, you can pull it from an Excel sheet, a CSV.
Yeah.
We provide that as part of the interface. You can choose what to do.
Oh, cool.
Yep. What we're not seeing yet, and I'm sorry, I haven't met with Sukh earlier to know what the demo flow is going to look like, but we have the complete SOQL API capability as well. So we can use our SOQL capability to seed data and even create records and even tear down records as well.
So as you can see, AI gave us a different country. I'm assuming this is South America. I can actually say, you know what, the country. Actually, let me pause. I'm gonna, sorry, continue. I'm gonna say resume. So it's gonna go through. I'm putting my hands up. You can't see me on video, but it's doing everything automatically, right? It's going through. It's setting the website, setting all the different fields, city, etc. Okay. So you see here it says countries United States. That's wrong. There's no, it's going to fail here. There's no state called Panama in the United States. So I will go down to country, which should show up here. Just give me 1 second.
What if, is that Greenland, Sukh?
It set it to Italy. So I'm going to set.
Too soon.
Oh, bad joke, bad joke.
Okay, so I'm going to set that to Canada. And again, this step needs to be further up in the process. So do you, hopefully this resonates. I am not pausing. I'm not restarting the test. I'm interactively designing the test to say, you know what, set the country to Canada first. And if I go to city, let's say we don't want this to Marina di Cara. I'm going to set it to Ottawa. Okay, now let's continue the test. So that's a huge differentiator. I don't have to restart the entire test. I can interactively build the test as I'm going through it. If there's an error, I can. This helps me in authoring the test. And then I hit play. Oh, yeah, please.
I think we're presuming that the team here understands the pain point. Anyone ever worked with Selenium or where you basically how you edit a test step?
No, not me.
Okay. So maybe if you could explain what the alternative is, the pain point behind using some automation there.
100%. So what you have to do typically with other solutions out there is you have to redo the entire process. It failed at one step, go back, make your changes, and hopefully next time it does not fail. And hopefully the test continues. Our advantage is you can pause, you can play, you can edit the fields in near real time as you saw to make sure the test is designed and works as intended.
So I was actually on this point, Sukh. I was working with a very big insurance company, and I was on site finding out how is things going with Provar. And he said, you know, it's weird because we've had a lot of contractors quit on us lately. And he was trying to figure out what was going on. And he found out the root cause was that with the old automation, they knew that a test case was going to take 20 minutes. And because they had to basically run the whole test to figure out if it was working, they would hit play, run the whole test, and then go get a cup of coffee or do whatever they wanted for 20 minutes. But he was saying that they weren't used to the amount of productivity that they would have to use with Provar, because no longer can you take these giant breaks. You can actually go right here and fix it in real time. It's kind of a crazy story, but he told me that actually happened.
So I just want to underline that. Does that make sense to the Ottawa user group? Because I think like to run a test and see it fail after you got your coffee and then restart it, get another cup of coffee, that's productivity, right? We can interactively edit and change the steps. So we are confident it's working as desired. Even simple things. We say zip code, postal code. So that's obviously a US postal code format.
Mm-hmm.
What if we had validation? What if it's supposed to be, letter, number, letter, etc., as we're used to it in Canada, right? You can establish that in your rules, in your definition.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions here? I know Michael would like to express his I think efficiency and how we can actually help with how we actually test this. So it's going through, etc. But please ask questions as we go through.
How you set up acceptance criteria on this?
How do you set acceptance criteria?
Correct.
Okay. Michael, I think I'll leave that to you. How do you actually do that properly?
Yeah, so it just depends on what you're trying to validate. But we do have a test palette. So if it's, hey, I'm trying to validate if a certain field is visible, we're able to validate based off of the test palette side of things. So Sukh, I don't know if you have like the visibility side of on the test palette on the top right there.
Right there. So it even looks like a palette. So here's all the different controls. Yep. If you can get more granular, create loops, create assertions, make a failed test, you have access to all the different logical steps. So I'm sure like you guys are all technical, you understand the logic here. You can do every single step. And not only is it a test palette for control, definition or design of what is actually the result.
Yeah, I think so. The assert side of things is where you can start to see a lot of the validation. And I think I heard the question, can we do negative testing earlier? And sure, we can pull up, if a pop-up window pops up and says that, you get an error, we can validate if that error did occur. So you set the criteria for the test flow based off of what you're trying to test. So a lot of times we want to see for this profile, did this workflow go in this route? Or if for profile B, did this happen? You just have to design the test case the way that your expectation is, whatever your expectation is.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a high-level example of how we actually author the tests. So once we create the tests, obviously, how do we execute them? You can execute them natively on a machine, a VM. Provar is designed to be on-prem, and that's intentional because we deal with highly regulated industries that do not allow cloud-based. Maybe you have your own AWS instance, etc. Right? But you have complete control of where you're actually running these tests. And I'm going to jump to the next persona, if that's okay, which is Maggie Manager. Any comments, Simon or Michael, before I proceed?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so as a manager, think someone who you guys in the room even report to, or either you are the manager. They are thinking of delivery, and they want confidence, right? So they direct the development of forward-thinking initiatives, and they need to report to somebody, CIO, CTO, whatever it is. They need to translate the program outcomes, which is testing, which is actually development, which is deployment, into insights so leadership can make further decisions. And we need to make it visible and transparent. So that's part of just transparency, make sure everyone knows what's happening to align with the long-term goals of the organization. So I'm going to pause here because Simon, we talked about this. Just what are we looking at?
Yeah.
On Maggie now.
Yeah. This is a pretty new dashboard that we've created. And what it got us thinking about this really was this, we were having conversations with prospects and folks evaluating Provar, and we were asking the question, again, what happens if there's an event? What is a severe defect for you? What does that look like? And most importantly, what value does that have to the business, right? So if there's a priority one outage, if there's a defect, if it's customer facing, is it revenue impacting? We want to know about it. But we don't want to know about it so that when it happens, we know. We want to know what risk we are protecting against. Again, testers and developers, we don't always sell the value of what we're doing upstream, right? We're busy doing our work, and it's not always very simple to articulate the value of what we're doing upstream. And so we've got these dashboards here that really do a great job of helping the executives in organizations understand the value of testing. And so there's a lot of different ones that we've built in here. I think we have the risk avoidance. Is that one of the dashboards down below? ROI. Risk avoidance. I mean, that's such an interesting topic to think about, right? How did it work as testers? How did you caught a defect, you caught a bug that didn't go into production?
Yeah, a lot of merit.
Yeah, and so
It's not seen many times.
testers.
And the developers fixed it, but they don't realize, no?
No, they don't realize.
And sometimes it's a lack of a story report.
Yeah.
Like
It's
a lot of the times the developers are doing a good job, but also we have to see the bigger picture and go back with the DA who writes the story, for example.
Right. Yeah.
To make sure we understood and that we're covering all our bases.
If you make developers to be productive and not making errors, then they look bad because people think they do not.
Look, yeah, I mean, it's a conversation. It absolutely is. So yeah, does that bode the question? Like, we caught this many defects, so let's go talk to our developers?
In your calculation here, I'm just curious. If you caught my error in dev environment, it has one price. If you caught it in UAT environment, it has another price.
Yeah. So
As
yeah.
so
if
then
you
you
got
go
it
to production, then
Sure.
it's different weight
100%.
on this cost.
100%. So you can go in and configure the weight and the severity of what you're doing. Absolutely. But good questions. I mean, you're not, again, the QA community, which is who we talk to a lot, doesn't understand the value of the work that they're doing. So when they go to ask for budget, because they need
They
automation,
understand value, but their CEO doesn't.
they don't know how to
They don't know how to present this.
Yes,
it's not articulated well.
Yeah, it's true.
Simon, can I just add? So I think our approach is similar to Salesforce. We provide an out-of-the-box template. And I think we've got 13 templates. Michael, you can probably elaborate, and you can configure these. So, sir, and I don't know who's talking. If you have a different use case, if you have a different story that you want to articulate to leadership, it's configurable. You could do that to address your business need or your concern there.
But this is all good start. Let's put it on this way. We do effort. We do one round of this, and we get new release, and then few tickets went through. How much effort is to maintain this? What you were talking about, kind of this looks like seamless down the road. Can you give us a little insight of what would be second round of work that is needed to keep this going?
Yeah.
So starting with the template and then actually defining your actual KPIs.
Well, I think the question is, Sukh, as you do new releases, release after release, how much do you have to maintain this data? I think the beauty of this is that this syncs right with your test plans that you create with automation. So when you run Provar, this automatically updates, and there's no maintenance. The biggest piece is that you just have to make sure that you input those variables the way that Simon mentioned before, is like, hey, if I want something to count 5 times the amount when it hits production than when I catch it early, that part you have to input. But once it's synced up with your test automation test plans, all of this is updating automatically for you.
So I'm going to say a quote from my Salesforce days. This is the power of the platform. And this is why we are successful testing Salesforce. We have access to all the APIs, all the updates, and I think it's one place, one source of truth.
We did have a question back here, I think.
I was just wondering if you could set a minimum limit to your automated coverage. So can I say every product has to be, I want 80% coverage. Will the system enforce that?
Well, you'll receive notification, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard to enforce that. I don't know, Michael, would you, I don't know if there's a mechanism to enforce that.
I don't know if it's the enforcement. I think what we see our customers do is more so on the other side is we integrate with all the major, release management solutions. So your Capatos, your Auto Rabbits, Gear Sets, Flowsums, or even if you're just doing like a Jenkins. So what we can do is create quality gates. And we see a lot of automation around that, where if we didn't get a certain pass rate for that deployment, let's just halt that deployment. It's just going to stop. And so we can do a lot of that. It's a good question on, can we create maybe flags or indicators? All of this is built on the Salesforce dashboard. It's a managed package. So if you wanted to build like a flow or a trigger, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. So maybe if something reached below 80%, you could create like a rule that would say trigger an email or trigger a Slack message that this has now fallen below a certain coverage that I am comfortable with.
And what kind of resource you need to be able to set up those tests?
Those
this
template, right?
template
Yeah.
test that's going to run, every deployment. Before you run deployment, you need to run all this suite of tests to be sure that you didn't introduce something. Whoever is setting this up, I'm asking from your experience, what kind of engineer or BA or what kind of resource you need to hire and train to do this? Is this QA engineer or somebody, how they play a role with BAs who know what business is asking and they are not part of it? Can you share some of those, what you see on the road?
Simon, maybe you should take that one. You've been working with a lot of customers lately. What do you say?
Yeah. So the biggest ask that we get is, can we hand this over to the business to build tests, or can we hand this over to someone else? We don't want to continuously have to do this ourselves, right? We like the folks who hand us the stories to also create them as well.
Yeah, they know what they are.
So I heard the comment earlier on higher drag and drop. Like, sure, it's not like it is drag and drop. It is point and click. I wouldn't pull someone off the street to necessarily do it, but I think a developer with those type of skills, there are extensibilities within Provar that are having developer skills would be really cool, and there's some awesome things that you could do that we can get into another time. But I would say a BA is perfectly acceptable and capable of running Provar and setting it up. I mean, you saw what Sukh was doing, right? Add to test case. It's click on the field, add to test case.
Yeah, I
It's
understand
literally
this part, but I,
the test case.
add to test. Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you is, if I need to hire resources for Provar to be effectively used and efficient, I need to send my Salesforce BA to do platform exam, learn about platform.
I'm suggesting
Sure.
that that's certainly a persona of someone who would be able to utilize Provar for sure.
I would say our most successful customers have had someone that has a testing background that understands the strategy of setting up tests. Because it's not just, point and click and get a test case, but what am I testing and when am I testing and why am I testing it is critical when you think about testing. And so if you have that testing strategy, that's number one. And number two, having somebody that is somewhat technical, that if you have to dive into things that do become a little bit more technical, you have that capability to fall back on. But 95% of the time, it is point and click. But every once in a while, you're going to run into something that you may need a little bit of technical help with. But the beauty is you have that one person, and usually behind that one person, you could have 5 BAs. You can have people that aren't as technical, that are a lot of the work that maybe an automation engineer in the past would have to do, right? So I never skirt around questions because I think it's so important to be to set up for success. Somewhat technical and somewhat strategy is what I would recommend here. But to have someone that can build their own Selenium framework, not needed.
Okay.
That's good, thank you.
Do you define coverage? On Apex, it's the line of code, so it's running through the test, but elements on the front, or
Yeah.
what is coverage?
Did you guys hear that question?
I think I did. You define that.
You define that. So based on the test case,
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
like you said, we define that based on the test case that we build, or the test builder.
So the question is, how do we define coverage?
Yeah. It is a good, yes, it is defined, I believe, through the user stories. You have to, in the back end of this, you do have to set up what your 100% coverage would equal to. So it's not basic. The question, I think, is starting, is it smart enough to say, well, I know all of the different user stories that I'm going to need for 100% coverage? Well, the problem with that, you can have an infinite amount of test cases if you really wanted to. So you have to define through your Jira integration what 100% coverage would be.
But that could be risky.
But this is this looks like for one feature, I create 10 cases to test it, 2 negatives and 8 positives. And you're telling me I am defining that if 90% of this 10 is passing, I will accept this as viable option. This is kind of up to me to decide what is correct or not.
No organizations, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong here, we very rarely run into organizations who say you've got 100% test coverage. It's very rare.
This is what's confusing.
You would hope, but even banks don't have 100% test coverage.
It's definition of test coverage. What you're selling is not Apex test coverage that somebody may think about. It's test coverage of tests, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that is correct. It's not like your Apex test coverage. It's the amount of tests that you need to cover your scenarios.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, if I may. So what I'm hearing about is like, okay, the user, like for example, a BA, come in using a tool to set up the template test case, right? Is that possible? Is there a function like reverse the process? For example, let's say as admin or as a developer writing a method in Apex, or create a flow. Is there possible the system can go into the system, reading the metadata, reverse engineer, telling me what the process is, what should be testing for, and have a test case for me without me to go there type in?
I would ask, when you make that development, can you convert that development into natural language?
Exactly.
Yeah. As long as you can convert it into natural language, which a lot of tools can do, then what Sukh started with would then be able to create the test case from there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's my concern to like, if someone not really familiar with test, they are writing something, they may miss some key points. That's just what I'm thinking so far right now. I'm thinking like the system can help me to determine what's a key acceptance criteria depends on the system, the metadata.
But it's very hard if you think about it. You need to know business process, and you need to know how it's supported in data model to have good assertions on the end to accepting what you're testing. It's still human in all of this big role. I'm not saying the technology can solve this.
Most of the situation I was facing, like for just my own experience, is like, okay, there was a user story, there are criteria. Okay, based on those one, I develop or updating, let's say a flow. So most of the time, it's just it's isolated. It's a flow, it's a new one, or it's an existing one. I'm just updating it. I hope like the system can go in there, read the flow, and translate, come back to me and say, okay, this is what you need to test. Is this coverage everything you want to achieve? I think I'm not sure I'm clear enough, but that's what reverse the process other than input what I want to do.
I completely understand the use case. I believe there is a way that we can accomplish it. It's not something that we've run into, like we run into every day, because we actually usually work with the QA teams.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just on another call where just today, that same exact question was asked. And our product team said that there should be a way to convert that flow through your Apex code into natural language.
Yeah.
And from there, you build the test cases around that. And as you saw, the first use case that Sukh mentioned, he had AI create all the edge cases.
Yeah.
Of course, then you have the human eye say, okay, based off of what this flow is, what are we trying to do? Which of these do we actually have to build?
Yeah.
But I think I heard someone say we'll never replace humans. I 100% agree with that. The goal is not to replace humans here, but to speed up their capability and to give someone that used to be a Selenium coder the ability to do this without having those coding skills.
Yeah. That definitely answered my question. Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
That's definitely a workaround for now, right? It's kind of like, okay, you can use other tool to reverse the, yeah, cool.
Yeah, exactly. For that matter, like if you have, you're on the other spectrum and you have 1,500 Selenium test cases and you're like, wow, how am I going to get these to Provar? I've invested so much. You can take that Selenium, push it to natural language, and now build the test case.
Yeah.
And are those accurate? Like they're built correctly?
So we actually give a score of 1 to 100, and if it's under 80% accuracy, we fail it. And you can run it, and it will rerun itself as many times to get above that 80% score. But it will give you like between a 1 and 100 score of how accurate it is. Now, like anything using AI, you need to check it. You may have to say, oh, this got me 90% of the way there. I need to edit this or change this. But the beauty is, when you talk about like architecting test cases, one of the big things is, do I use the UI to build the test case? Do I use the API to maybe build the lead using data and avoid the UI? The nice part about our solution is that it's going to build the Provar way, the recommended way. So if I'm building a lead and I'm not testing anything on the build of that lead, it's going to use the API. And then when we get to actually testing functionality, it will then use the UI. And it will do all of this based on best practices.
Okay. I have one business problem with my current project. So we are working on an agent force project. And our Salesforce agent force is using like very old model, which is I guess GPT-4 mini by default. And you need to make it upgrade by paying extra bucks. What problem I'm facing right now, like there's lots of hallucination. Eventually it's LLM. And what's a business problem we are solving? Basically, we are removing cases altogether, excess cases. So let's say a new team member joins, or maybe he got promoted, he wants some elevated access. So instead of go to the form, fill it, then manual intervention comes into the picture, and that case got created through IIM or whatnot. So we are doing through agent right now. But the problem at this moment, we are facing lots of hallucination. Maybe I'm writing one question at this moment, giving me answer some other way, or maybe after 5 minutes, I'm getting some other answers. So can this tool also help the testing of the agent force?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you want to take a stab at it, and I can help if needed.
It's coming. Trust AI. So Provar has a brand new solution. We're gonna laugh, but it's part of the Provar platform. And again, how we test AI, hallucinations, toxic output. It's coming. It's coming very soon. If you go to TDX or Dreamforce, I know Dreamforce is way away, but yes.
Yeah, but I will give a more elaborate answer to that. So what Sukh is saying is absolutely is coming. We have Trust AI is the name of the product, and it will be here April 30th is the release date. And it will test everything you just mentioned with hallucinations. It will also test governance, observability, literally, do I trust my agent? But to answer the question, your specific question of can I use Provar to test this scenario right now, we have built that into our current platform where you can test agent force. And the hard part is it's everything you've seen in the test case Sukh showed today is deterministic. What do I mean by that? It's yes or no, black or white. If it does this, fail it. If it does this, pass it. The problem with agents is you can ask the same question. There could be 5 different responses that are accurate and would pass. So how do you test that? So what Provar has done in our current platform is we are using AI to test AI. So we can actually use, with point and click, we can actually create test cases that would then test if something passes the criteria using our own AI to test AI. That's very high level. It's not a very technical answer, but yes, you can do that today in our current platform.
Okay, so basically we are just feeding the user story on the basis of the same. You are generating the test cases and running it on agent.
Yes, and we're creating the criteria that's acceptable based off that response. Now
So
the key is
so you cannot click and something do the second thing that so shows in the demo.
yeah, I don't know if we would have something demo ready right now, but if Simon
No.
can
Yeah,
yeah.
this deserves
a further further deep dive. But what I will
Eventually, the Salesforce do have their own product called Testing Center, but the problem with the testing center at this moment is he can give the good results for the knowledge base or the basic agent. But like if you get into the complex problems, then Testing Center is failing.
correct.
Yeah.
So that's the matter.
testing center can do one utterance at a time, right? So utterance is a fancy name for a prompt. So it can do one prompt. But then the problem is how many times, like if I'm going to book a room, reservation in a hotel room, it's like 10 different prompts with the agent, not one.
Yeah.
So what Provar can do is not just that one prompt, but it can actually string together all of those. And then if I do get a successful result, I need to do something within Salesforce, like send an email or close a case. Well, with Provar, it's going to do the full end-to-end flow, including what you're trying to assert at the very end of that flow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, that's all we had for you. I think, as you can see, all of our different levels of
But
knowledge here. So if you like good questions for Sukh or Michael, but once that camera turns off, we're going to be in trouble. Because I'll be able to answer much less than the two gentlemen on that.
But just one thing, you can have 100 test cases that you want to run every release. Can you schedule those runs and let them run overnight? Give you a shot list?
It's hands off keyboards, eyes off screens. I mean, that's
100%. Yep, you can. So it's either on your machine, or if you need cloud computing to do it for you, yes, we have a solution for that.
I believe, because when I see your demo, I believe like this kind of test can simultaneously run in different orgs, right? Like over extended period of time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Another question is, you said you were built on Salesforce platform. I assume you follow the same life cycle. We can deploy from sandbox to production, or it is not. Okay.
Yeah.
You can point it to any org you would like, and you can use the same test case at any org you'd like. And that goes back to what we talked about with the problems with testing. The layout of different orgs can be different, right? I know when we are promoting orgs, it's not always the same. And you might have different profiles with different page layouts. And this gets, again, into a main issue of test automation is scalability across all my variations of test cases. But because we use metadata, it doesn't matter what that page looks like in each org. So yes, you can point it to each org, but you can point the same test case. I heard a Spanish speaker in the room. If it's in Spanish or in English, you can also run that same test case, even if it's a different language of the org. So hopefully that answers the questions about environments, orgs, and the scalability.
Another question. Sorry, go ahead.
When you said you're looking at the metadata and you just said you can transfer your test to different orgs. So what happened when the field is missing in one org because of a deployment mistake? So it's failing?
Probably.
Or are you already saying the field is missing? To identify the problem?
If the field is not available the test case will fail, because that's the idea behind the test automation, is to tell you that, if that was part of the flow, right? If it was part of the user story that this field needs to be tested, if it's not part of that, it would continue to run.
Okay. So every test are just looking at the metadata of one org when it's connected to it.
That's correct.
And when you transfer the tests, I saw the data is fixed what you use, but most platforms are connected to other systems, and sometimes each org has different connections, and
Yep.
they are coming different data just with the same numbers.
Yep.
You're asking for a personal number, but you get different data. So how you handle this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have a log on as functionality. I think Sukh showed you at the connection level. And so what we would do is just build a new connection every time you switch. And you can build variables in your test cases that allow you to switch between the different orgs very easily. But yeah, we've run into those issues. We've also run into issues where you may have different personas or profiles that you need to test in a single test case, and it's just dragging and dropping that new connection into the test case. And at that point, it will switch to that connection and provide that appropriate data.
Okay.
I have a question. So we talk about the testing in Sandbox. Does this supporting Scratch org?
Yes. So we actually have something called Provar DX, and so we can run via the CLI.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so another question I was just triggered by Dieter's question is about, sometimes the deployment have bugs, right? Like a glitch, and will the testing be able to scan? For example, I have a account object. I have like 100 field there. If in sometimes like post deploy, different process deployment, probably missing field like. Yeah, and will the system scan through the metadata, checking all the field metadata there, like make sure that the 100 field are all in the repo?
Yeah. So what we typically do about something like this is we have that, what I mentioned before, is the SOCL query capability.
Yeah.
And when you do the SOCL query, it does everything about the metadata: the number of fields, the objects, the custom objects, the page layouts, the permission sets, permission groups.
Mm-hmm.
Did permissions change? And so what we can do is we can create a test case that is specifically for what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
where you basically pull out everything from pre-deployment, and then you pull it out post-deployment, and it runs via a CSV file.
Yeah.
And you can compare the CSV file and see if anything had changed.
Yeah, even like a field has been moved up and down, like in the metadata file.
It does do the location as well within the metadata. So the page layout of your field. So
where the field is located. Okay.
So yes, we see this in insurance industry and banking industry all the time, because it's a huge issue if someone has read access post deployment that they shouldn't have had. What they used to have to do is they write for every single permission or profile, they have to go in and check the permissions post deployment. And using like automation for this, it might be like 15 different test cases just for one test case. Because that go from profile A to B to C to D. And so with this, what we're talking about, it's one test case.
Yeah. Okay. I think that I can definitely say that's a huge time saver. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Another question. Do you have different approach with environments with low data volume and high data volume for testing things?
Can someone repeat the question? It's
if what you are testing can deal with in Sandbox that doesn't have data, it will have mock-up data, maybe a few thousand records.
Oh, can you use
Sandbox, you go to high volume data when you have millions or more records, and then things start falling apart and things like that. It doesn't work well. Do you have anything that's
load testing is not
Okay.
not our
No.
forte. Not what we do.
No.
Yeah,
Okay, sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's a good question.
it's performance-based testing, right, Mike?
I see. So the one thing we can do is we don't do well. I'll say with a caveat. I've actually had a customer that built their own infrastructure with and ran tests in parallel, hundreds of tests in parallel, because we don't have limits. And they did create a load testing, but it's not what we do. It's not our main forte. But I had some person that loves creating things and doing things, and they did it. The other thing that we do, though, is when you run a test, it actually gives you the ability to timestamp when certain elements appear. And so if you would like to do something that says, hey, this element took 10 seconds to appear, that's past my threshold, you can fail the test because it took too long. It's not performance testing, but it allows you to see the performance as it renders on the page.
Okay, thank you.
I have also another question about translation. If you have a site who's probably working in English, German, Spanish, and often the labels are not transferred correctly or something like this. So can I test that the labels are in the correct language available? So I'm collecting the labels on one side, and I can transfer it to the next side and check if the labels are right.
Yep. We can define whatever you'd like in your assertion. So if it's the correct language, currency is also very something that we see quite a bit. So if it's the assertion you want to do, yes, we can define the assertion, the rule. But also back to, we use the metadata API. So if you're trying to test the same thing in English and Spanish, again, you don't have to change the test case. It's one test case for both.
Okay.
How do you test dynamic forms? This UI depends not on metadata only, it depends on the data. With different data, dynamic form looks differently.
Mhm.
I don't know if I understand the use case 100%, but what I'm hearing is if it's dynamic and the form changes, how do we test based off of that? Usually it's the test case itself has to change. So if 3 fields are checked, the form should look this way. If 2 fields are checked, the form should look that way. Usually it's just designing the test case appropriately for the different variations of that form.
But you also need to define data which is essential for, I don't know, for this dynamic form. With some data, this field appear. With another data, this field does not appear. With another set of data, the field is read-only.
Yeah. So we can definitely take a deeper dive into this use case, but what I'm hearing is just more in the test creation. We can feed whatever data we would like, and so you just need to know which data should actually create which result, right? So as long as we know what the expectation is, we can seed the data appropriately. But if there are further questions, like one thing we love to do is solve problems. So if this is a core problem and you truly have interest, we can get on and get one of our engineers to go through and showcase how it works.
I do always say, by the way, when folks are evaluating Provar, one of the things we're really, really strong at is saying, no, we can't do that, right? We know what success looks like from our customers. And the worst thing that can happen in these scenarios is someone like me who's in sales says, yes, we can do that, no problem. And then our support and delivery team has to go do it, and they can't do it. And they say, who told you we could do that? The culture at Provar, from our founder on up, and the pressure that we put on Sukh's sales solution engineers, and I always ask them, like, is that requirement something we can do? It is your job to say no or yes. And if the answer is no, you're going to learn it from us before you discover it. And so that's part of evaluating Provar is our commitment to you, for sure. As you can see, sometimes the answer is not so black and white. Yes, but, or no, but, right? Like, do we do load balance, load testing? No, but you could. So we're pretty good. And look, Michael's my boss, and it was one of the first things he told me when I started working here. It's like, look, we know what good customers look like. And we're not going to get ourselves into situations where we can't support the requirements that we've sold, right? So we do ask a lot of questions. We do a lot of, we'll do solution overviews where we demonstrate the product, and then we'll do them again, and then we'll do them again, right? And we'll do deep dives into very minutiae of the solution, just to make sure that you could be successful. So it's part of our commitment to our customers and to folks evaluating Provar.
It's a good culture. Usually sales team say yes to everything.
It's true. I mean,
That's the only thing they just need to do their targets.
we're programmed that way. But here are the things that I've seen over the last probably 10 years that have changed my job is the communication amongst, like, you can't get away with that anymore. You just can't. You know, you go into a restaurant and you have a bad experience, you could get away with that for years. You can't anymore. The burden on resources on the back end for us to support customers with those requirements that we couldn't meet in the first place can drive a company pretty close to the brink, right? So we're very clear about what we can and can't do. You know, and again, it would be easier for me to say yes, of course. But on the back end, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Just, I know we are close to the time. Just before we separate, what is pricing model? What you're paying for service?
It's totally,
Go ahead.
there's no money. No.
No money?
Another bad joke for me. But,
Yeah, look, I mean, generally speaking, our packages for getting a small team of users going from a licensing perspective was around $30,000
Yeah.
annual. Yeah. Not a month, unless you've got it, we'll take it. But, no.
I'm not paying
This
any.
guy isn't paid there for 30,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean, that's a small team, 30 to 45K roughly.
So
By the way,
how many is a small team?
yeah, so 3 users.
3 users? So
Three.
floating, so shareable users.
So we're not a consumption-based model.
Okay.
So a lot of folks in this business will sell based on minutes or the number of tests. So ours is unlimited, and our users are not named. They're floating.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're logged in, you log out, you can jump in and use that license.
Okay.
Right? They're not tied to specific accounts. I will also tell you that we won't let you buy our software without proper support and enablement and implementation packages.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that. And also to us knowing what good success looks like. Typically our implementation packages, which are, never mind support, that's sort of, if you don't have that in software, you're not in business. But enablement includes learning from a trainer, like an actual person. It includes generation of test scripts, so we help you build those test scripts, the first 2 or 3. And then you're not passed off to a support team in year 1 right away. You've got a specific customer success team and a certain amount of hours within that package to go directly to one of our consultants. That package usually sits around $15,000, and that's a one-time fee.
What's your release schedule usually? Like per year, like couple times release, or?
Michael, your experience here versus me?
We actually mirror the Salesforce releases. So the thing
Okay.
we didn't talk a lot about this, but Salesforce will change their elements. They'll change their components.
Mm-hmm.
A new button might look the same in the UI, but it's not the same. That will break test cases. So we get the pre-release from Salesforce. We update any of those changes, and then we release our solution to you It's already got those fixes in place.
I see.
And we should point out Salesforce, obviously we're a partner of Salesforce. They're also a customer of ours as well, some of their organizations. Yeah.
So I came in late, so this may have been covered, but did I understand that your testing users are running like a local instance of Provar on their own machine that actually does the test? It's not like a cloud solution.
That's correct.
Okay.
We have some hybrid approaches that we can
Sure,
look at.
if you can run a virtual machine in the
Yeah.
cloud and do it, but
Yeah,
it's,
we do a lot of work in regulated industries, and keeping those locals an advantage for us.
Yeah.
Interestingly, feels counterintuitive these days, but
Any specific department working, like you guys are working in Salesforce?
the V2 Mom group,
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Sales enablement team is a big one. Partner enablement team is another one.
Okay.
Also, the marketing team within Salesforce is using us. So we've got various teams using Provar.
Mhm.
Yes.
And also, we're the first application to integrate with the DevOps Center.
Oh,
So,
cool.
so we integrate with DevOps Center, and we actually were on stage at Dreamforce just this last Dreamforce with DevOps Center, talking about how to test with the combination of that. Last Salesforce plug is that when you go into the Trailblazer journeys and you take the test automation journey, that was created by us.
Oh, that's nice.
We have one more question.
I'm still.
Yes, you can buy it today.
Yeah, that sounds really attractive and interesting, but I'm just trying to understand the bigger picture. We have quality assurance team, like in our current cycle of development, we have BAs, testers, developers, architects, like we have the whole team there. And we have a special team that does testing, like for even engineers that are doing testing. And we use Jira, and we use test cases in Jira, and they're created manually today. For me, it's really attractive, this option you chose. You showed that you can create the test case within the app, with the builder, I think it's called.
Yep.
So if I were to show this to a QA, like putting my cap as a BA, because I have different caps there, is for me, it's a black box, what you showed me today. Like, it's understandable, but it's sort of a black box. If I wanted to look at the test case and see the, like what was mentioning, the AC of the story, of the user story that is feeding the app to build a test case, like we build that manually today. And we have inputs of data specified in the test case in the expected result, and we take manually screenshots of every step as evidence, because if something goes down in production, we can cover our backs.
We do the same thing.
Or we can do, but it's a lot of work. There's a Word document created where the screenshots, and we have to copy paste the test steps and prove that in each environment that goes up until the release passes. And we can, in Jira, we can fail a step past the other steps if they're not related. And then the PO can determine, okay, this can go to the release, or maybe no, this stops. But here, like the visibility of that and the danger of detecting a defect, like, can you do that? Or this is like for mass, like.
So all of this can integrate with Jira, and every time that something fails, it takes screenshots. And so if your process is that you basically just create the automation, and then if something fails, you need a screenshot, no problem. You can even take screenshots if it doesn't fail. You just have to set it up that way.
And then, Michael, we do have, I mean, we'll take this offline for another time. One of our products, Provar Grid, which is running parallel executions in the cloud, actually takes a video
Oh, even better.
of it rather than just a screenshot.
Yep. But yes, all of it is, long story short, it's all documented. And it can follow your current process of Jira as well, like even logging the Jira case automatically once we find a bug.
So it does communicate. So we can show it to a normal language to our business, right? Because like that is like a little black box that maybe
Absolutely.
the developer can understand, but not the business.
Absolutely. It can all work within your process. Of course, we have our own quality hub that Sukh showed, where we can showcase in there. But if, sometimes it's hard to change the process of a business that's running 10 years the same way.
Thank you so much.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Just discover a feature.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still one technical question. I think you can inject data before you start the test, or with the starting of the test, you inject data because you want to test something in the front end.
So data from where? Are we talking about Apex or data like CSV?
It's like you need an account and a contact, and you want to test a case or an incoming data from the outside through an interface, and I want to see the reaction in the front. So how when the data is coming in, so I search for the data, and so I need the data in the system.
Mhm.
So I can inject the data before. I think Selenium can do this. You too?
Yes.
But the normal problem is normally who's cleaning up. Do you have something when's failing to clean up, or does it only clean up when the end is? Normally, the programmer forgets to clean up after it for the tester.
That is a setting. You decide. Should we clean up data or should we just leave it in place? So that's table stakes, if you will. We do that.
Okay, but more for me, I need a rule that the tester do the cleanup, because they and the org get struggle because they have a data structure who's horrible after.
Of course, if it's production, we don't want dummy data there. Yes, we can do that.
Even in sandboxes, yeah. We can tear it down, no problem.
Yeah,
And
I heard from previously, the answer question is like, you can basically do seeding a new environment through CSV. Like
the seeding, but it's
Yeah.
also when it's failing on the way.
Uh-huh.
I need something to say, okay, I created these data and these have to be removed after.
I see. Yeah.
If it's go to the end,
Mhm.
I have to take off all the data.
Mhm.
But how do you get it that only half of the way, when it's failed, that these data is removed?
Mhm. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Can I put at every step a cleaning routine?
I believe it's a setting that we could put at failure of cleaning, but I think that's a good one we should come back to. But I've heard of this use case before, and I know that we can accommodate. It's just I can't give you the exact way it happens. But then we can, the other part of the question, CSV, Excel, JSON files, and we can connect to a database as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Does everyone have a mechanism to get a hold of me if need be?
We will share your information.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Again, any conversation you need, we're happy to have them. Again, my team is really keen on technical conversations as well. Well, just tell me what level you need, and we'll get them in the room with you. Happy to have conversations of any sort. So thank you for hosting us, Michael and Sukh. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Really appreciate, we love to be part of the community and give back wherever we can. So really appreciate you bringing the team in. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Sudhi.
Bye.
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 Thank you, guys. That was great. Hope it was a